Big tech and artificial intelligence. On today's episode, we are going to take a closer look at two big companies, Microsoft and Amazon, and how these two giants are pushing into the artificial intelligence market. So I said I am joined by an amazing co-host. Good morning, Toby. How's it going?
Going well, Jose. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. The previous episode did great, so it was a no-brainer on my end. And today, like I mentioned, we're going to take a closer look at big tech, but more on their artificial intelligence push. And I think you're going to lead us with one that's very popular right now, Microsoft, and how they're kind of implementing this open AI and their current investments into their platform. So I'll send it your way, Toby, so you can start off the episode.
Yeah, indeed. Exactly, Jose. I'm going to take a look at what Microsoft is doing right now. And you can see the screen here, there. We're just going to go through. It's got a couple slides for you. But first, I want to talk about, the big news, right? Everyone's familiar with is ChatGPT, right? This is what Microsoft is doing following their recent big investment in OpenAI. They announced a couple months ago. The first thing they did, right, is they took that ChatGPT project and rolled it into Bing as an AI chatbot. Now, everyone knows about this probably if you've been following this field. This was kind of a big deal. The thing, though, Jose, is this was really mostly for fun, I think, right? It was kind of cool. It was fun to see that, and we all had fun following the news stories about journalists fighting with the Bing chatbot about what year it is, things of that nature. But that's not the huge push, right? I don't think that's the huge push. I think Microsoft was doing that for really two reasons. One, they wanted to get some good press, which they did. I mean, we're all talking about Bing all of a sudden now, which no one was doing last year, right? I think they really wanted to get people using this to start collecting data for improvement and refinement. And they certainly did that. I just saw a stat, more than 1 million people signed up for the Bing preview in 48 hours. That might be the biggest increase in Bing users in the entire history of the service, right? Not 100% sure about that, but it would not shock me, given that it's been a distant second place to Google search engine. But that's not really what they're about, right? And they told us that, right? When they rolled this out, they said, hey, we're putting in Bing, a nice fun chatbot to start with. But we're also going to roll into Office. We're going to do these other applications, right? And that's what the big push is for, I think. It's the productivity stuff, getting into Office. In fact, yesterday, Microsoft announced that ChatGPT is now in preview in their cloud computing Azure's OpenAI service, right? So what you can do now is you can go in as a developer and you can take ChatGPT and integrate it into your own apps using the Azure service, right? And, here is...
Before we go any further, I want to thank you for watching, and I need your help to reach my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and thumbs up. Also, if you want some fantastic insight into the semiconductor industry, join my other channel, Semiconductor Investing and More, where I use my electrical engineering background to break down the semiconductor market. Finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
We can get this slide going here. So here are some things. If you look at this, right, what can you do, right? This comes from a presentation Microsoft did. What can you do with this OpenAI service? Well, you can obviously do content generation. You can do summarization, right? You can do some code generation. You can bring it into search. You can do all these things with this device, which is now available, right? That's available. And customers are already using this, Jose. Office Depot is building a chatbot for internal HR purposes. You wouldn't think Office Depot, that's not a big user of this sort of stuff, but they're doing it internally for HR stuff. They want to use it in HR document reviews and document processing, right? Singapore, the government of Singapore, you're looking to integrate some of this into government functions. Icertis, a company, is using this in contract compliance and risk analysis, right? Trying to build a bot that can look at contracts. Microsoft told us too, they're holding an event next week, The Future of Work, Reinventing Productivity with AI. This is next Thursday. And maybe we'll come back, Jose, after that event and talk about this some more once we get some more details from that. So they're going to be showcasing how you can use AI in Microsoft Office, in these other productivity products. That'll be really interesting. Let me show you some ways it's being used right now by people who have started to try um, to integrate this in their business, right? Customer service bots, that seems an obvious solution here, right? You can take ChatGPT, create a customer service bot that you can use to deal with like those low-level customer service functions. Streamlining, editing, and adaptations, right? Think about this, right? I write some content, right? And maybe I write an article, and maybe it's for a really technical journal, like a scientific journal, right? And then someone comes to me and says, "That's cool. I want you to rewrite that for a more popular audience," right? Kind of, dumb it down a little bit. Let's have people understand this who aren't scientists, perhaps. Well, with Chat GPT or this AI tech, I wouldn't necessarily have to rewrite that myself, right? I could say, take this article I wrote, make it simpler, cut it down, fit it into like 1,000 words, go. And it takes the first cut at that. And all of a sudden, I've maybe cut hours off of my time. All I have to do is the final edit review, right? To make sure it got what I want to do. That's really interesting. You can help write code. You can do administrative tasks. You can write emails. Now, the bad thing, I don't know if you saw, Jose, there was news out this week that now we're getting a lot of spam generated by,
Oh man.
yeah, yeah. So, of course, people are going to do that. But maybe you can use it for non-spam stuff too. Like if you want to send out an email blast to a bunch of your customers, you can have the AI write that, right? So that's kind of interesting. Schedule management, meeting transcriptions and summaries. If you're having a meeting on Zoom, you can have the AI transcribe that, create a summary, maybe create different types of summaries. Like I want to send this summary internally, right? I want to send this summary to clients, right? That sort of stuff. So it's a lot of interesting things. I think that are happening that Microsoft is doing with this. The other thing that's kind of interesting about all this, right? So you think about chatbots, you think about what about Siri? What about all those digital assistants? What about Cortana that Microsoft shut down a ways ago? Well, Satya Nadella actually gave an interview this week with Financial Times, and he called those assistants dumb as a rock, right? He said, like, this is ridiculous. They don't do anything. They're stupid. And I think he's kind of right on that, because when you think about it, I don't know if you have one in your home, Jose, but
Nope.
yeah, okay. Well, they're not really assistants. They're more just voice control for basic home automation, right? That's what they do. They don't replace like a really good, personal assistant who knows what they're doing, right? With these things, I mean, even when they do home automation, you've got to do everything yourself, right? You have to tell it, when I say this, do this and this and this and this, right? That's not what we want, right? I don't want to have to go through that. I want a realist. I want like a digital butler where I say, hey, I want you to lock the house up for the night. I don't have to tell it what to do. It just knows, okay, so when people say to do this, this is the things that need to happen. These lights need to go off. I need to make sure the doors are locked. And of course, all this is connected, right, with digital hardware and whatnot. But then it does that. I don't have to go in beforehand and say, this is the routine. It just figures it out, right? That's the goal. I think with AI, we can maybe get some of these better assistants, right? I'm not sure, but I think you might see Microsoft release maybe another version of that down the road. That's a true assistant, right? Not just kind of this voice control stuff. I think that's kind of a life-changing opportunity that we might get from AI. Things that go beyond what you actually ask for, anticipation of needs. AI can do that. Integrate with other systems that aren't specifically designed for it, right? Like think about making a reservation, like for dinner. A true AI digital assistant can do that without APIs on the other end. They can go to the website and make that reservation just as the website exists. Like the restaurant doesn't have to do anything differently to make that integration happen. Maybe we get to the point where they can even call the restaurant and have a conversation. That's what you want, right? You don't want to, well, what if the restaurant doesn't have a website, right? And I have to call myself? No, have the AI call it, right? There's no reason we can't do that, right? We already have voice generated interaction with these things. There's no reason we couldn't do that. And then you get to the point where you could tell it, I want a reservation at 7, but it knows from your habits, okay, if that's not available, maybe 7:30 works, or even 6:45, but then I got to adjust the other thing you've got on your schedule, but I can make that happen, right? That's the cool stuff, right? And we're not there yet, but I think that's where we might be headed to, true digital assistants. Getting back to that Chat GPT and thing, that's kind of fun, right? That's cool, but I suspect you're kind of like me, Jose, and you don't really want an AI chatbot to talk to just for the hell of it, right? I mean, you want that chatbot to go talk to other people that you don't want to deal with. We both have friends. We already have people we can talk to. What the good chatbot does is say, you know what, this customer service agent for the airline, I'm trying to them, it's like, I don't want to talk to them. You go to that, right? So I don't have to do that, right? I think that's the next level. And I'm really, really curious to see what Microsoft is going to tell us next week when they showcase kind of how they're doing this on the first level of productivity integration, what that means for stuff that we do every day, right? Just for our jobs, for the writing we do, for scheduling, right? Like what's going to happen with that? And this could get really, really interesting really quickly. So a lot to think about, a lot to look forward to. We're gonna have a lot to talk about over the next year, I think, with this stuff. It's kind of a new era, and this is really starting to get interesting with what they're doing.
Definitely, Toby. I mean, I agree with you where I think where Microsoft did this open AI was more for them just a huge press conference to some extent. It's amazing how we're still talking about it. And I did see a report yesterday that mentioned that Bing has crossed over 100 million daily active users. That's still like very low single digits in the search engine market, but it's way better than they were before. So it's helping them out one way or another. So that's pretty impressive. I hate to see that we're going to start to get more spam from generative AI. Um, we're going to take a closer look at Amazon in a bit, Toby. But one thing that I saw while I was kind of researching this AI is that a lot of people were creating ebooks and selling them on Amazon's
Mm-hmm.
platform because they were just creating all these different books and different topics. So we can see how definitely generative AI can kind of bring certain markets or scammers to the space at the moment. I also do agree, right, Toby, that I think right now with these conversational assistants that we had, pretty dumb, but this AI can be like that brain that they were missing, like you mentioned, right, Toby?
Mm-hmm.
And that great thing is having these products where I didn't even think about it, but I do believe that's where it should head, where these things don't need an API to interact with other platforms where they can kind of do it. Like they themselves be able to go to the website or make the phone call without any form of interactions or API that is needed coded on their side to be able to do that. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. And I like all the examples that you mentioned. Um,
And if we can get to that point, Jose, where you can basically have these interactions with other systems, with other things that don't require the owner of that system to do anything, that's awesome, right? Because then you're eliminating an entire part of the workflow that doesn't have to happen, right? And it makes it easier for us to, I think, maybe integrate stuff and make things work together a lot more smoothly. Whenever and the point about you made about the books, right? Like, well, one thing, well, if everyone can write a book quickly, then I'm going to have a bunch of junk out there that I don't want to read, right? Well, yes,
mhm.
but if you remove the kind of time-consuming part of any process, what can happen is that the creative side comes out more, right? And someone who's maybe really, really good about creativity, has a really good idea and knows how to craft these stories, but doesn't necessarily have the skill or the time to just sit down and go, you could get better stuff, right? The idea is you take away the non-creative stuff and allow humans to thrive on the creative side. And you can get some really impressive content, I think. So we'll have to, that'll be more interesting, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe we benefit from that if we just, recognize we have to tolerate the email spam as well
Mhm.
as a side effect. You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, Toby, on my end, I've been using ChatGPT a lot, but more for a educational purpose. Like sometimes I look at some of these semiconductor slides, and I'm familiar with the technology here, but there's always certain kind of terms that they use or certain tech that I might not be too familiar. So I just jump to Chat GPT and like explain it to me like I was a 10-year-old real quick. And it kind of breaks it down a little bit more. So then I can understand a little bit more of what I'm reading based in that market. And another thing, my brother, a funny story, Toby, he's a teacher and he usually teaches seniors in high school. And he says sometimes he gets crazy amounts of recommendation letters. So I'm like, he hasn't done it, but I just showcase him. I'm like, hey, give me a random student name, give me some characteristics, give me a fake university, give me something you want to say, like a quick line about this guy or gal. And then we went to chat GPT and I was like, hey, can you write this recommendation letter for all that information that I collected, like 5 lines? And it gave me like a 2-3 paragraph
Yeah.
recommendation letter. And my brother was like, yeah, actually this works really well. It saves me a lot of time, and then I can still help out with this process.
Yeah, and that's kind of you know a good use for this. You take the form letter to the next level, right? Where you're, as the writer, is still saying, here's the name, here's the university. I want to say this that I know about the student. This impressed me in class. This is a talent I know they have. Work that in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you have created this base form that you always send out that you've loaded into your system. Say, this is kind of the format I want this to follow. Put these things in there. It saves you a lot of time. You're still putting personal touches in there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is kind of like that old mail merge form letter that you'd send out en masse, except now you can make it more personal, right? With AI, which is
Definitely.
kind of cool, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
you can take tasks that you have to do repeatedly and in bulk, but still have that personalized element more easily. And I think that really kind of gets us to the next level in terms of the ability to do things quickly, but still have that human personal touch in there. That's really interesting.
Definitely, Toby. So I think that's any final thoughts here, Toby, or can we move on to topic
Yeah,
number
I think
two?
we can go ahead and move on.
So, on this topic, we're going to take a closer look at Amazon and their AI push. First, what I want to do is yesterday, Toby, TrendForce, they have a lot of great information, Toby. I'm not sure if you've checked their website out a few times, but they share a lot of great information about the tech market, and they were kind of talking about AI servers and how they're kind of growing. Or there's a huge growth for them or demand for them. And they mentioned some of the top players in this space. For the total AI server procurement quantity, in 2022, Microsoft was number one with 19% of total servers bought. Number two was Google with 17%. Number three, to my surprise, Toby, was Meta
Hmm.
with 16%. And number fourth was AWS, or Amazon's kind of global cloud service, at 14%.
Hmm.
I believe the four cloud server providers here, giants, make up roughly 62% of the total market in the AI servers. So we can see big players are spending a lot of money on AI servers. And like I mentioned, I feel sometimes Amazon gets overlooked in this market. So I kind of wanted to remind some of the investors of how is Amazon in the artificial intelligence market. Before we go any further, I want to thank you for watching, and I need your help to reach my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and thumbs up. Also, if you want some fantastic insight into the semiconductor industry, join my other channel, Semiconductor Investing and More, where I use my electrical engineering background to break down the semiconductor market. Finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode. I want to say the most important, or the one we know the most, is the recommender system. So this is for their e-commerce. When you go to their website, they kind of know what you might want to buy or what kind of product you're looking for based on previous history. So that recommender system is helpful for that. Also, we know that Amazon is pushing into the advertisement market. That recommender system is also helpful for that. And Amazon also has a lot of content in forms of music, in forms of their Prime Video, and form of Twitch, which is their gaming streaming service, and all that again needs that recommender system to help make sure that they're providing the best content for the viewers that's signed in. Outside of that, Toby, they also have autonomous robots, and they're mainly used on their distribution centers. Here they have Proteus. I have an image on the right there, and this is one designed by Amazon that helps with at distribution centers move heavy packages or kind of just manage them themselves. So Amazon is huge in autonomous robots, but they're mainly using it in their distribution center. So maybe most of us don't really know about them unless we work at one of these centers. Next, Toby, they also have self-driving cars. In 2020, they bought a company called Zoox, I believe, Zoox. And we can see by this article that came out on February of 2023 that Amazon's self-driving car unit is starting to do passenger deliver in certain cities. Right now, those passengers are actually Amazon workers, so they're picking up the workers and taking them to wherever, to their distribution centers or their headquarters. So it's a great way to kind of just show off the tech. Next, we have that conversational AI. We mentioned Microsoft has Cortana. Amazon has Alexa. One thing, though, that the CEO of Amazon said is that conversational AI like Alexa is opposite to what the Microsoft CEO said. He considers them a lot smarter because things like ChatGPT, they only have events up to 2021, or they limit the events where Alexa can tell you what happened in the World Cup, for example, where ChatGPT and OpenAI might not be able to do that. Especially maybe the Bing version can, but the true OpenAI version probably won't because they only has data from 2021. Uh, the Amazon CEO also talked about generative AI. They say they have been working with developers, but they didn't really share much information there. Just like Microsoft, though, Toby, I think the real winner here is going to be the cloud server providers, or their kind of clouding infrastructure. For Amazon is AWS, where they provide the infrastructure and numerous kind of software solutions for other companies to kind of develop their own products. So it's kind of open sourcing this artificial intelligence market where in reality, if there weren't these cloud server providers, you would have to be spending a big money to kind of get all this kind of information. So Amazon on their AWS servers, they announced two things. First, I kind of want to move to the right one real quick. Amazon SageMaker. This is something within their AWS servers, pretty much how Microsoft had it in their Azure platform, where you can kind of use those solutions to kind of do certain high performance machine learning at scale at a lower cost compared to you doing it itself. So they have Amazon SageMaker, and Amazon earlier in mid February, I believe. Here we can see, I believe this is the vice president of. Vice President of Database Analytics and Machine Learning at AWS kind of announced that they are partnering up with Hugging Face. And Hugging Face is another form of kind of generative AI. They're kind of the competitors to OpenAI to some extent. So Amazon is also playing in this space. And again, I feel like this is a company. I don't know why, Toby. I feel like Amazon has been forgotten in this AI rush or AI push, but they definitely have a lot of products and solutions that are in this market prior to this kind of AI race that we're seeing right now. But we can also see them kind of expanding into some of those partnerships now that it also has become popular.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, Jose. I think you're right. This is one of the company that maybe people have forgotten about in the last couple of weeks when we're talking more about Microsoft and Alphabet and what they're doing in that kind of like the AI chatbot search stuff, right? But Amazon's got a lot going on, and what's interesting to me is a couple of things you pointed out, like especially those robots in distribution centers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's more internally. It's not something, Amazon didn't make those robots to sell
Mm-hmm.
to people, right? That's an internal solution. Um, and that's kind of similar to what we are, I think, going to see with what Microsoft tools are going to be used. Companies are going to take those to make internal solutions in a lot of cases. Uh, and that's great, right? Like as retail investors, as consumers, we like to see the consumer side of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we're seeing with some of these companies is more of a business to business model with some of this stuff. And it could revolutionize business. It could revolutionize the way we work, change how we interact with each other, but also change the tasks we do, right? What you see with Amazon in that distribution center, right? Now, people don't pick stuff up and bring it from one place to another. The robot does it, right? And if you're not there, like you said, if you're not in the distribution center, you don't understand, I think, how much that has changed over the past couple of years with that solution. And their self-driving cars, I think you said they were using it to bring employees back and forth in some
Mm-hmm.
cases. If that's all they ever do, that's still potentially a really interesting and useful thing to do, right? For a company, especially if you've got this massive campus, or you've got, you're kind of, I just want to bring people to my office. I'm going to, you say, oh, you're not going to come back to the office because the commute's too bad. Well, what if I give you an AI vehicle, which you can start working, you can get caught up, you can have meetings. What if I pick up 3 people on your team at the same time and you all have a meeting before you get to the office? I
Mm-hmm.
can
Yep.
totally eliminate that commuting hassle. If I do that, will you come back to the office? maybe a lot of people say, okay, yeah, sure. Like if you're going to tell me that my workday starts when I leave my front door,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to waste half an hour of my time in a commute, I'm cool with that, right? So I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go in, but you can start to see the possibilities. I think with how AI can solve real problems for workers and make work better. So this is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, Toby. I mean, I think one of my worst things about work was it was about a 45-minute commute, and obviously I didn't run the clock then. I had to wait till after, so it was pretty much
Yeah,
an hour and 30 minutes
yeah.
of my time before I made it to the office. But yeah, pretty interesting, and I agree with you, Toby. Where I think right now for this AI push is going to be more like big tech trying to do more like business to business, like you mentioned, and eventually that's going to trickle down. Some new startups are going to start using these solutions and bring some cool applications to us, the consumers. But I do believe that's going to take some time. Right now, it's mainly that business to business side.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. I think one thing, you know, that people, you see cool technology like this, right? This seems to come out of nowhere, right? And you think, oh, well, in the next 3 months, everything's going to change. No, maybe a couple years, maybe a decade. Like by the time it gets to this point, this thing takes time, right? To kind of figure stuff out, solve those edge cases, get it to a place where it's really useful. But it will happen. I think it will ultimately be a game changer for all of us. I think that we're still going to be talking about this years from now, though, about the next new thing, how it's
Mhm.
being iterated, as it really takes time to mature and develop.
Definitely. Thank you, Toby. And I think that's a wrap for today's episode. I want to thank the viewers. I hope it was super insightful to see where big tech is using this AI at the moment and how we can see how companies like Amazon and Microsoft can benefit from them right now. So I'll post all the links to where you can find Toby on the pinned comment and on the description. So make sure to go show him some love. Toby, again, thank you for joining me and hopefully see you again next week where we talk a little bit more about some other big tech giants.
Yeah, this was fun, Jose. Thanks for having me. See you next time.